The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
You've always got time for short time.
Hey, it's Mario Lopez.
David Taylor.
Brent Metcalf. Johnny Hendricks. Tony Ramos. Bubba J.
Mike Golick.
Matthew Modine. The one and only Chael Sonnen. And you are listening to the one and only Short Time Wrestling Podcast by the often imitated and never duplicated Jason Bryant.
Now up on the Short Time Wrestling Podcast, we are getting ready for Fargo, the Cadet and Junior Nationals taking to the Fargo Dome, the 23 mats. And one thing you're going to notice this year is the gear is going to be a little bit different. We'll talk a little bit about that today with our guest. He is Grant Turner, an Iowa State alum, an assistant coach at Grandview University, and the North American sales manager for Athlete Peformance Solutions, the authorized licensee of Nike wrestling apparel here in the United States. Grant, known each other a long time. Welcome to the program finally.
Love being on here, buddy. Love it.
So let's just get right to it. This is news that's kind of been trickling out. I mean, there's been a press release, I believe a month or so ago by USA Wrestling, but this news that Athlete Peformance Solutions and Nike Wrestling have kind of taken over the apparel sales in Fargo and then the official outfitter of a lot of the Team USA Wrestling gear. Let's just put into motion, how did all that begin, and what is Athlete Peformance Solutions' role in all of that?
Well, absolutely. And we went through the contract bidding process. USA Wrestling opened it up because at both All-American Wrestling Supply and also ASICS, both of those contracts kind of expired at the end of last year. So basically the contract negotiations started, and we got the bid, or at least announced that we were going to be the official merchandiser about 2.5 weeks before preseason nationals in Cedar Falls. So it didn't really give us much time to get up and running. Really didn't have any prior information on any of the events. So basically just went into the entire system blind. But very excited to be the official merchandiser of USA Wrestling. And then shortly thereafter, we put in a separate bid for the national team, which was the official sponsor of the national team. So our men's freestyle, women's freestyle, and Greco-Roman athletes for the United States would be outfitted in head to toe with Nike.
Now let's just that's just to break the ice to know what we're getting into when we get into Fargo. So let's backtrack a little bit and find out a little bit about you before we go back into the business of Nike Wrestling, the business of Athlete Peformance Solutions. You're an Iowa native, wrestled at Iowa State, now currently coaching at Grandview. How did you first get your start into the sport of wrestling?
Grew up around wrestling my entire life. My dad was a Division II All-American for Northern Iowa back in the 70s. He was on a Division II national championship team under Chuck Patton. Wrestled with the likes of Jim Miller and Ken Snyder and some really good guys for Northern Iowa. And then basically got my start at the Little Kids Club in Maquoketa, Iowa. At the time, up in that neck of the woods, it was like Eric Juergens was a part of our club and grew up there. And then, basically just kept wrestling my entire life. Took 2 brief years off to play travel AAU basketball. Decided that I wanted to do that with my friends and took a 5th and 6th grade break away from wrestling, but came back to it in 7th grade. In which case then we moved to Des Moines, and then I finished my career with Johnston High School. And just been around wrestling my entire life. My dad was really a driving force, and kind of took me around to a lot of the tournaments and kind of got me started.
Yeah, I kind of wonder when you grow up in Iowa and you've got a family member, in this case your dad, who is an alum of Northern Iowa, and you make the decision to go to Iowa State. I mean, what type of civil war is being drawn here at the Thanksgiving dinner table?
Oh, it was great. Actually, one of his wrestlers was Gary McCall, who was on the 1987 Iowa State national championship team. He wrestled for my dad in high school. And then through my high school career, I've known Gary for a really long time, put in some extra work with him and learned from him. And when it came time to do some recruiting, Iowa State, Gary, kind of sold me on it. Because at the time he was working with Trent and Travis Paulson. So At the time that I was making my decision on where I wanted to wrestle, I felt like Iowa State was the best scenario for me as an athlete and for education, and turned out to have a really successful time, and had some great teams at Iowa State during that time.
Well, what's the best part about Ames, Iowa?
Oh my goodness. I mean, Hickory Park has to be up there. That's the best barbecue place in town. But I mean, Iowa State, it just feels like home. It was a great place for me to do my college career. At the time we were, Cale had just gotten done and Iowa State was on a really good high, and our group came in and we did what we did, and had some really good guys come through there during my tenure at Iowa State. But it felt like home. It was the right situation for me, and the right situation for my collegiate career. So I loved it there.
Your collegiate career probably, what you say, probably wouldn't go as well as you wanted it to. But what are some things you learned about yourself going through the process, competing at the national championships, that set you up for life after competition?
Well, I think just the benefits of wrestling really helped me. Just hard work, dedication, being able to put in more work than everybody else to achieve my goals. I didn't have as much success as I would have wanted during my time there, but that motivated me to do what I can do within the business world now. And once you're part of that fraternity at the NCAA level, like, I got out of it what I was supposed to get out of it. So I'm very happy for my time at Iowa State.
So as we're talking a little bit about Iowa State as we're rolling out, what do you think about the hire of Kevin Dresser at your alma mater?
I think it's great. I've always thought of Iowa State as one of the pinnacles in the country. It's been a destination for some of the best athletes to ever come through the United States wrestling process. So I'm very excited for them to make their mark and make their stand on what they can do together as a staff. And Kevin's really put together a great staff there. With Metcalf and Zadok and St. John and their new director of operations. The name escapes me right now, but I think that they have a really good scenario going in there, and lots of young talent that they can cultivate and bring them along. So I'm very excited for those guys, and I'm excited for their first season.
Not worried about too many former Hawkeyes in the Cyclone den there?
I don't get into it as much. My roommate and teammate Kurt Backus went over and coached at Iowa and loved that. And I've gotten to know the Iowa guys really well now. With Morningstar and Tom and Terry Brands and Bear Howe, and those guys are, hey, wrestling's wrestling, man. So at the national tournament, it doesn't matter what colors you're wearing. You gotta be able to strap it up and go. So I'm excited for those guys. It does seem weird seeing Zadok and Metcalf like in Cyclone gear. It's kind of weird seeing, but I'm excited for those guys. I think that they're going to do a great job.
We circle back. One of the most successful programs within the state of Iowa, especially in recent years, has been the program you're helping Coach Nick Mitchell out now at Grandview. With you guys have a very large staff. To say that you're, how often do you get in the room, and how do you balance that many coaches on that staff?
Oh, I love it. And, there's only 2 full-time guys. So the rest of the guys, we're fortunate enough to live in Des Moines, where a lot of these guys are part-time individuals. So they have full-time day jobs, and then they come in and try to scrap with the kids as much as they can. It's just, some of the times we'll have some guys show up middle of the week, or they'll coach on the weekends when we need them to go travel to Dakota Wesleyan or somewhere else. And, it's a lot of fun. Having more guys being able to help out, the better. I love it.
What is it like to have seen a program go from the ground, from zero, from not existing to now just a juggernaut within the NAIA?
It was rough the first couple of years. I think our first year we ended the year with 13 guys. So me, Mitchell, Helvey, and Billings, we're doing drills and going live every day. And, we were young enough that, it didn't affect us at all, but, that was a tough time. And, we did a really good job with the kids that we had, and we were able to, crack the top 10 there for the first couple of years, and then, out recruit and, develop the program the way that Mitchell saw his vision going. it's unreal the success that we've had. It blows my mind.
Yeah, the last 6 NAI national championships, and the championships will come back to Des Moines at least next year, if not the next 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. And nice little home mat advantage there. But as we move into what we've got you on here for, the big booth will be Nike Wrestling. The Team USA gear is Nike Wrestling, and this, in some circles, and you can probably include myself in some of those circles, kind of might have rubbed some people or chafed some people the wrong way, because there's the swoosh, and then there's still that scar that is the dropping of Oregon wrestling. Where does Nike Wrestling sit? Where does Athlete Performance Solutions sit in all this, and kind of working, I guess, maybe Nike's name back into a more favorable situation within the sport of wrestling?
Well, absolutely. And, for the longest time, Nike had kind of just let Nike Wrestling die. They had a couple of guys that were coming in there. The last person that's really associated with Nike Wrestling that I can think of would have been Kerry Kolat. And Eddie was on the team at the time working with Nike Wrestling when they got Kerry. But Nike was about ready to just get out of wrestling entirely. They were just going to drop the sport. They weren't going to do anything with it. And my boss, Eddie Brown, basically talked to Nike with his company, Athlete Performance Solutions, that, give it to me. I can make some money doing this. I would love to be able to have the opportunity to work with Nike Wrestling product and be able to really distribute it throughout the United States and globally. So I think, there really hasn't been anybody to represent the brand from the community for a very, very, very long time. And, our goal as a company, and myself being a former wrestler, is that, now we have representatives. We now have people that can represent the swoosh and represent Nike the way that it's supposed to be. So that's part of why, we're sponsoring and taking care of lots of athletes and coaches and programs, is to say, hey, this is, what was in the past is in the past. That wasn't us. Trust us to do what we do and to build the sport the right way and judge us on our work that we're doing now.
Yeah, just so people are understanding on how this situation works. For example, the old ASICS contract, primarily based out of TW Promotions, which Nick Gallo and people that are familiar with that group, they were basically kind of like the licensee or of ASICS Wrestling in North America and the United States. That's kind of exactly what you guys are for Nike Wrestling. So it's not ASICS proper or Nike proper. You have a company that is able to license that apparel, correct?
That is correct. So we basically work with Nike corporate for our footwear design. So we'll use Nike for our engineering, product development. We'll use Nike factories, but it's our company that will actually purchase the product and be responsible for selling that globally. So we actually do North America, but we also do everywhere else in the world. So we can work with federations like Georgia and Kazakhstan and Poland and Hungary. Those are the things that we will do as a company on a global scale. But we're mostly focused on the United States market now. But we have the ability to move product everywhere.
So if you go to athleteps.com, you can scroll down to the bottom, folks, and see exactly what Grant's talking about with the various governing bodies and sports organizations. Some that might jump out right at you: Titan Mercury Wrestling Club, Hawkeye Wrestling Club, but also you've got USA Fencing, USA Weightlifting. You've also got the Wrestling Federation of Greece, Boxing Federation of Armenia, just to name a few. So it's not just wrestling apparel that your company's dealing with, but from the wrestling standpoint, you're dealing with other nations governing bodies. Like USA Wrestling here, you've got you're dealing with the same federation in Greece. I mean, how do those situations work?
Well, it's very, very similar to how we're basically doing the national governing body for USA Wrestling. We work with their athletes. We work with them on developing product. We try to take care of their gear packages for the World Championships and Olympic Games. Basically work with their president, just like Rich Bender and his staff, in order to take care of the country of Greece for their federation.
But there's still going to be the stigma of the program in Eugene that was cut, and it's whether or not it was tied to Nike, it still leaves a bad taste in people's mouth. And how have you guys really tried to. I know you spoke to me a couple years ago when you guys were just getting the Nike deal off the ground. It's like, hey, just give us time. You're gonna like what we're seeing. So, what has been the biggest thing to really kind of change the public perception of Nike within the wrestling community from you guys' standpoint?
Well, I think it's just given somebody to talk to. I think now with me and we just hired Chad Lohman as our USA events director.
Lohman.
Yep, exactly.
I know Lohman.
So he's officially with Athlete Performance Solutions, and he is going to be taking over the USA Wrestling event schedule, and he's going to be going all around the country and being kind of the face of Nike Wrestling to everybody that can come up to the booth. I think the biggest thing that I would say as far as a community that we had with Nike is that you didn't have any access to anybody that knew anything at Nike. Now you can see James Green, Alex Derringer, Robbie Smith, Jaden Cox, Allie Reagan. They are a representation of Nike Wrestling now. I don't think that was the case before, just in the way that Nike kind of does their sponsorships. So now we're on the ground. We're in the grassroots. We're working with Terry Brands with the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. We're working with other institutions across the entire country to help support wrestling. All the way down to the youth level, all the way up to the Greek Wrestling Federation.
Now, there's also a number of programs that are Nike schools, and say that a wrestling program is at a Nike school. Where do you guys come into play? Is that something that the schools have their own vendors, or is usually the wrestling gear coming through you guys now?
Competition apparel and footwear would be coming from us. So for the Division I institutions, they usually have a Nike contract or their equipment manager that would basically take care of all of their needs. For training gear, shorts, t-shirts, jackets, travel bags, that kind of stuff. But when it comes to the competition uniform, the singlet, two-piece, all that kind of stuff, that would be coming through our company. So we would basically handle that for each individual NCAA school. We do have team dealers out there that would represent Nike Wrestling. One of the largest ones in the country is an organization called BSN Sports. And they're at the high school level. They're at the Division III, Division II, even some Division I schools representing Nike. So I will work with those reps to be able to take care of each individual school's needs.
Now, there has been some chatter with the program being brought back at Fresno State that Nike had some involvement with that. How much of that can you disclose?
Absolutely, and for Fresno State to revamp and rebirth their program is outstanding for the wrestling community. I think it shows a vision from their athletic department to do that. We have helped as much as possible Coach Steiner and his staff in order to get that program off and running. They will have everything that they need as far as competition apparel and footwear from us. So we actually gave them a budget to be able to do that. So we are definitely heavily invested in Fresno State to be able to support them and even with their RTC as well. So we're going to try to work with them on that as much as we possibly can.
Now, do you think that kind of might be, with that being known, that might help kind of leave that Band-Aid on a little bit that is still kind of hurting from that Oregon situation?
Yeah, I think that anything that we can do to help programs get going, Division I, Division II, Division III, NAI, JUCO, wherever we can do to help programs get off the ground and running, I'm all for it. And I think with what we can do to help Fresno State is a great thing that we can showcase and point to and say, hey, we're willing to help out a Division I institution that's a Nike school, give them the things that they need in order to be successful. I think that will, over time, give people something that they can say, hey, look, this is what Nike Wrestling can do and has done for a program.
Now, when it comes to the apparel itself and the products, there's something about the swoosh that people, runners like them, basketball players. I mean, I've even pointed this out that while I haven't bought a Nike product since Oregon's dropped, now they have been gifted to me because a lot of the teams and my friends they buy Nike apparel, and it's kind of like one of those things when you're trying to have this stance about something and the shirt just feels so nice. It's like, man, this kind of stinks for trying to have a cause here. But no, it's as far as like some of the dry fit stuff, the USA Wrestling, Cody Bickley sent me a nice pullover. The quality of product that kind of, lends itself to that people know Nike, they know it's, whether they like them or not, they know it's probably going to be pretty good. And how would you rate the wrestling gear as a former athlete and somebody who, you get to work out in this stuff because Grandview's got the Nike gear, so firsthand.
Absolutely. And I think, Nike, to your point, I mean, they make really high quality product. And we get to piggyback off of that a little bit as being Nike wrestling. So, when you think of the pinnacle of sport, you get to think of, Cristiano Ronaldo, LeBron James, these type of guys that have their own, presence with Nike, is that, it's good quality product. And, we're trying to bring a little bit of that flavor to the wrestling world. The Hyper Sweep was the first shoe to come out from Nike since we took over. So that was our first step forward in the development of footwear. So that I wear that at practice. The brand new singlet that we have with Team USA will be dropping to the entire wrestling community within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So the entire nation will be able to have that specific garment for their high school, club, college. And that's what my Grandview team is going to be in. So I'm definitely a believer in our product. Growing up, I wore Adidas, I wore Asics. I didn't really have any Nike product until I really started working for them, and then I've tested out their product, and it's been an easy transition. I definitely like their footwear. The singlet needed a lot of help, but we got it there, and I think we're in the process of developing the best women's wrestling singlet in the world. Team USA will be wearing that at World Championships, so we will have a women's option as well.
Now, is this week coming up, Fargo? This is going to be a really, for lack of a better term, a real coming out party for Athlete Performance Solutions and Nike Wrestling as a whole. What are you most looking forward to with Fargo?
I think it's the biggest thing is just the amount of talent that's going to be there, and just being able to reach out and talk to as many athletes and as many coaches as we possibly can from the booth, and then also, talking to the coaches at night, just having a presence that, hey, I work with Nike. I've had coaches basically either tell me like, you're the worst person alive, or, hey, I really I really like what you're doing. Both are very welcomed conversations. Trust me, I'm not a guy that's going to get all worked up about it, but I would definitely love to hear everybody's point of view, positive or negative. I think that's what makes us a better company, is to, accept feedback and be able to, really listen to the coaches and athletes. So I think that's going to be a really positive thing for us at Fargo. And, with the new structure with freestyle going first, it's going to be crazy. Day one, I mean, tons and tons and tons of athletes are going to walk by the booth and see Nike, and they're not going to see Asics there. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a shock to some of the athletes, just knowing that, Nike is basically going to be the provider for USA Wrestling events and for the Team USA.
Yeah, and how's that apparel going to work? Because if you go to the website at athleteps.com, you've got the online ordering for the various sports, but wrestling, and then you've got the USA Wrestling section. How many more non-performance type of things are you guys going to put out there, like the junior national shirts and things like that? Souvenir type stuff. What's in the works for that?
Oh, we're definitely going to have some brand new pieces at the booth for Fargo. So we will have some event product there. We're going to have some just brand new Fargo specific items, both which will be at the event and then also online. So we're going to continue to build up our product assortment for both the website and the events. And we're going to do some really cool stuff. I think this year we kind of had to stumble through this year, just not knowing, what would sell and what products the people really wanted as far as the community, and then also putting a Nike spin onto what we can offer to the wrestling community. I think we learned quite a bit this year at the booth, really determining kind of what works in what parts of the country, and and what athletes really want to see with USA Wrestling products. So hopefully we have some really cool stuff for them there. And then we definitely will continue to learn and continue to grow as a company and make better product for them.
You know, you also go to the website, you see the team section where you could look at collegiate apparel. Right now, you're rocking a lot of Penn State and a lot of Ohio State, two schools that are really kind of hot right now in terms of their marketing efforts, their fan bases, winning national championships. And how much do the college programs play into a role of the apparel sales that aren't like team gear?
I think we do a really good job. The reason why we have a lot of Penn State and Ohio State on there is because we sold the rest of the product to the universities for their camps. So the University of Minnesota, Iowa, Iowa State, Oklahoma State basically bought the rest of our wrestling apparel to be able to have for their camps this year. So we'll be reloading and trying to be able to supply some fan gear through our website for programs all over the country. I think having some sort of option for NCAA wrestling fans is something that we're definitely very happy about. I think Blue Chip Wrestling and us are really kind of the two people that really have bought into the collegiately licensed apparel. We partnered up with them at the NCAA wrestling tournament in St. Louis, and they had a phenomenal response from all the fans there. So I definitely think that the collegiately licensed apparel product is something that a lot of the fan bases like all over the country.
Yeah, and you mentioned Blue Chip, and of course they've been good to me over the years, as well as the gear sponsor for this program at Compound, which is teamwear. And it's companies like Compound that lead to my next question. There's more than just Cliff and those type of gear companies. I know Steve Saxon has 3X Gear up in Fargo, and these are companies that do team gears and stuff, and say they want Nike product to sublimate their stuff on. How easily is it for those type of companies to work with Athlete PS and Nike Wrestling in general?
Well, I think that was one of the main draws for our bid process, is that we were going to open up the USA Wrestling apparel to all of our accounts that we wanted to be able to sell USA Wrestling product to. I have talked to Cliff. I need to get back with him in for this fall to be able to get them on board with some Nike product. As far as USA Wrestling product, Wrestling Mart, Suplex, Blue Chip, WrestlingGear.com, Sunflower Wrestling, and Takedown Sportswear, where all of those companies can sell, and 3X Gear or 3x Gear. They all have the ability to sell USA Wrestling product for the very first time in USA Wrestling history, because All American kind of had the right to do that, and they just kind of kept it to themselves. We've decided to open up distribution to everybody, so that everywhere in the entire country you can find USA Wrestling product, and through the people that you like to do business with.
So, for example, say I'm from Virginia, and I know Virginia, the VAWA was one of the first state organizations to really jump in with Nike Wrestling, and they were raving about the singlets and the gear. And I'm going to admit it was pretty cool to have a cool Team Virginia gear back in my closet again. But so, if I'm understanding this right, there's always been logo issues in using the USA Wrestling logo on your Fargo gear. You're saying that's no longer an issue, that you guys say, hey, your team gear could use the USA Wrestling logo?
Yeah, I think we've discussed that with Ryan Johnson and Cody Bickley and everybody.
Well, it's the rights to use it, for example. Like, there's the modification of the Suplex within, say, the state of Utah or the state of Iowa. There's some variant that still needed approval.
Yeah, so each state association has the right to use their own marks to do whatever they would like to. As far as the USA Wrestling logo itself, that has to be produced by APS. So somebody on the street corner trying to sell a USA Wrestling product that they printed in their backyard, it's illegal counterfeit product. They can't do that because we've paid USA Wrestling the rights to be able to use that mark. So if you, from a state association, want to be able to use the wrestling, USA Wrestling logo, as long as we kind of at least know that, hey, you guys are going to print it, we can print it for you or have one of our distributors print it. But that's the only way that we can do that.
Okay, so there's still some logo protections, but it's just not like, all right, we can use it. I'm just curious on that process. So I think
a little bit cloudy from time to time, but all the USA Wrestling Nike products, so a lot of it is printed on Nike product. Those guys would be able to then purchase all of that product from us. So we work hand in hand with Blue Chip and all those guys for whatever they would need. We can print that for them and ship it directly to their store, and then they can go sell that to the public.
Okay, gotcha. So, or a gear company's like, okay, give me 35 of these XL shirts with the USA Supplé in the back, middle of the shoulder. We'll put our own stuff on the front. So that it's like if they need to get some gear, okay, you can give them bulk stuff to put their stuff on with their, whether it be a company or whether it be a local screen printer, for example.
Absolutely. So a lot of it, we just have to be in the process at some point in time because we're the ones that basically are protecting USA Wrestling's logo. So that there's just not companies out there producing, counterfeit product that basically USA Wrestling or our company has not approved.
Gotcha. All right. Now, speaking from your own standpoint, what's it like to kind of be involved in wrestling with so many different angles? I mean, you've got as a former athlete, you're an active coach, and then you've got this whole, it's not even a side hustle. Coaching's your side hustle. So, I mean,
Yep.
You're involved in basically trying to recreate a brand and get people to like said brand all over again.
I think, and when I first kind of approached Eddie about potentially working with Nike, which was through my dear friend Scott Casper, I didn't even really know what I was signing up for. But I was like, if I have the ability to work for Nike Wrestling, develop and build a brand from scratch that hasn't been around for a very long time, I felt like I could do a good job. And I think just, the response the country has really given us is that, hey, if we can get our stuff together and we can make good product, people really like Nike as a brand. I think, in other sports, other kids wear, Jordans or, the new football cleat. It's, I think just making a good solid product for some kid to go from football, wrestling to track and be in the same brand, some kids really like that. So, I mean, bringing what Nike does to the wrestling community and being a part of that, it's unreal.
Do you feel there's any added pressure on you because of the history with the swoosh and wrestling versus, say, bringing in a company like Puma or Fila, not the old wrestling governing body, but the shoe, or a Reebok into wrestling? Do you think that the swoosh brings a little bit more pressure for you guys to perform well?
Well, I think the biggest thing too is, we gotta represent for the swoosh ourselves. So, when we come out with a product, it's got to be worthy of, the Nike corporate people. It's like, hey, make sure you guys develop something good and make sure that you guys, develop something that the athletes want. So that's why, we put so much value into our partnerships with, our federations and our colleges and our athletes, is to give us proper feedback to be able to produce the best products in the world, which Nike does in all their other sports. So, the pressure is always there to make sure that you produce something that is worthy of the swoosh, but no additional pressure. At least I don't think so. Just want to make sure that we put our best foot forward. And if we do that, I think we'll be in a good spot.
What are some other initiatives you guys got coming up after Fargo? It's going to be a busy time with the World Championships and of all three styles, going to be outfitting Team USA. But other initiatives, you mentioned Chad Lohman coming in to run the event side of things. But I'm guessing this is just really the jumping off point. Is this big deal with USA Wrestling?
Yeah, it's a huge deal for us. It's a huge deal for our company. Heading into the World Championships is the it's the pinnacle of sport for this year. So we're very excited to be able to do things for our athletes heading into Paris. So looking forward to seeing the brand new singlet and all the apparel that we're going to be doing for them. Really on the world stage. So after the World Championships, basically we just kick off fall 2017 and get ready to outfit middle schools, high schools, colleges with everything that they need, and then we're neck deep into it again. So basically no rest for the weary. It's full time, 365 days a year, Nike Wrestling trying to develop and bring new product, and then we're 2 months away from preseason nationals. So that's the next big thing.
So are you going to be spending your week in Fargo, or are you sending Lohman to that by himself?
Oh, it's all hands on deck. So me, Chad, Travis Fox, who is basically our one of our directors of operations. He basically handles everything with Nike weightlifting. He's basically the events boss for all of our events or all of our sports throughout the entire country. He'll be there. Our new social media director and marketing guy, Chris Ball, will be there as well. And then I think we're going to be bringing in Shane Goodell, who is our director of marketing. So he'll be there, I think, for a couple of days. But yeah, it's going to be all hands on deck. It's going to be pretty crazy up there.
Well, to find out more about what Grant's got going with Nike Wrestling and Athlete Performance Solution, athleteps.com. Give it a look. You can also check them out on the social media. What are some things you guys are doing on social media to kind of amp up this Fargo week before we go?
Oh, we're definitely going to be doing a ton of plays on social media for Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. So we're going to be doing a lot of that. Our Twitter handle, I think we're going to be getting that pretty much launched. It's going to be like Athlete. I think it's Athlete PS. Or I'd have to double check.
Yeah,
on
you're
that.
at Athlete PS right now. It's because there's been some questions on like the fake Nike wrestling one was one, yep, for example.
Oh yeah, we had to figure that all out, and I think our actual Instagram handle for wrestling is, I think it's Athlete PS Wrestling on Instagram, and then I think we're going to be able to set up some more accounts for our Twitter page. Chris Ball is going to be heading all of that up. So we're going to be doing a lot more. You're going to see a lot more of us on social media. And we're going to have some really cool things going on at Fargo. So I'm very excited for the nation to see what we're doing up there.
All right, Grant, we've been talking a lot of business. Now we're going to talk a little bit of fun. We do this little segment on Short Time called Short Time. 10 questions, 90 seconds. Are you ready for the challenge?
I am ready, brother.
3, 0.
All right, question 1. Who's your favorite follow on Twitter?
Nomad.
All right, good one. Question 2. Oh, man, you don't even have to say his full name, just Nomad. Number 2, you win the Olympic gold. What are you having for dinner?
Oh, I'm having sushi, for sure.
Okay, first sushi answer we've had. Ken Chertow said he likes salmon. Anyway, question 3. Who's the best wrestler people don't talk about?
James Green.
Favorite all-time flavor of Gatorade?
Riptide Rush.
Favorite video game of all time?
Bond. N64.
Oh, wow. Speaking of my time there. Speaking of my time. I sucked at it, by the way. Question 6. Favorite international wrestler outside of the United States? So your favorite non-American international wrestler?
Frank Chamizo.
Okay, good choice there. What would you rather have as an athlete in your arsenal? The John Smith low single or the Jordan Burroughs reshot double?
Jordan Burroughs reshot double.
Who is one guy from history you'd like to wrestle, whether it be historical character, author, whatever, somebody in history you want to wrestle?
I would love to wrestle Satya.
Okay. Nice knowing you.
It doesn't mean that I'm going to do well. I mean, I would love to just scrap with the dude. I think he's a legend. But
yeah, if you want to beat him, you might need to bring a bat or two.
For sure.
Who's your funniest teammate of all time?
Probably. Oh, it's a tandem. So Trent and Travis Paulson.
All right. And question 10. What is the one place you're most looking forward to going in Fargo more than any other?
Herd and Horns, Buffalo Wild Wings.
Okay, that's 2 places. I thought the correct answer would have been the Fargo Dome, but I'll give you credit for both of them because the turf will not be open by the time we get there. So anyway, Grant Turner, appreciate the time, man. It's been fun. We'll see you in Fargo.
Absolutely, buddy. Thank you for having me on.
You are listening to the Short Time Wrestling Podcast with my daddy, Jason Bryant.
Yeah, that time of year, I get all amped up. Is this week we got Grant Turner talking about Nike Wrestling in Fargo. Pete Isaias will be on the program later in the week. He is the events director for USA Wrestling. He's been doing this thing for umpteen years. This one I'm getting stoked for because this will be year number 19 for yours truly, and that also means year 19 for my mug. But unfortunately, the Bison Turf still not set to open by the time I arrive in Fargo. I will have an abbreviated week in Fargo this year. I'll just be there the front end, and let me tell you why. Because I'll be out of the country for 30 days following Fargo for the Cadet, Junior, and Senior World Championships. So if I want to have a very loving wife when I get home from all these trips, I had to make a concession somewhere. So, yeah, it's better for my health and the health of, this program that I kind of say, all right, I'll make a concession. Right, babe?
Right.
Okay, yeah, there's her seal of approval. So, that being said, there are some things that you need to get from Matt Talk Online before you go to Fargo. One of those is the Fargo Almanac. This is available at matttalkonline.com/Fargo Guide. This is a one-time $20 purchase, but I'm going to tell you a little secret. It's only $15 if you use the promo code JB. That's JB, like Jason Bryant. Not like Jordan Burroughs, not like Jenna Burkett, but like Jason Bryant. JB, okay? Don't tell him I said that. But JB, save you $5. And here's the kicker, too. You buy this thing once, you get free updates for life because I'm not going to charge you $15 a year just to add the extra names from one year to the next. That would seem a little shady. So buy it once. It's like mowing faucets, and I'm not talking about Chris mowing, like buy it for looks, buy it for life. No, buy the stats once, you get them once, you get updates. I'm already on 13 revisions in 3 years. I keep finding little things to correct. Sometimes I fat finger a state or somebody's listed wrong from back in the 70s. This thing goes back to 1971. Every All-American, every state, every style. You want this. It's quality stuff for you stat nerds out there. MattTalkOnline.com/Fargo Guide. You will not be disappointed. Again, thanks to Grant Turner of Athlete Peformance Solutions for jumping on, talking a little Nike wrestling, and talking a little bit about Fargo. Pete Isaias next week, and then we will be right there in the midst of it. Freestyle goes first this time, so might do some doubles up, might do some shows from Herd and Horns or B-Dubs, since, again, the turf's not open yet. We might hear from Steve Saxland again. One of the owners of Herd and Horns, who gave me a horn last year, like an actual horn, not like Das Boot, but like Das Horn. Anyway, I'm getting amped up to go. If you're there, come find me, usually between sessions or afterwards at the Wild Wings. So I'm not hard to find at Jason M. Bryant on Twitter. And currently, the wrestling shirt a day is up to 90 consecutive days. Speaking of driving my wife crazy, she doesn't even want to touch my laundry anymore for reasons other than the normal reasons that you wouldn't want to touch my laundry. But as far as the filing system, I've got to make sure that I don't wear the same shirt at any point, or I lose this thing. And it's not really like a competition because I don't know who's going to what you win. It just shows that you really have a closet full of wrestling T-shirts. So day 90, Joe Caprino at Indiana Matt is the only guy that's been able to hang with me all 90 days. But I got to call shenanigans because he did the hashtag wrong. It's hashtag wrestling shirt a day if you're interested in the mindless stupidity of this contest. And it's kind of goofy. I just always wondered how many days I can wear a different wrestling shirt in a row.
700.
And that was my wife saying 700. Actually, it would have been 700 had I not given away a bunch before I moved to Colorado. So I think I donated like 500 different shirts. Co-ed varsity wrestling was one of my favorites. I actually stole that one from my old roommate, Chad Filson, who, by the way, just had a baby. Congratulations. Actually, his significant other had the baby. Chad didn't actually push the baby out. Baby came out with no hair, just like Chad. So baby's got his daddy's hairline. So, Chad, congratulations. 12 House Style, Pump Free Man, Hickory Hawks Wrestling down in Chesapeake, Virginia. So, yes, Chad had a baby. Rusak had a baby, too. Oh, yeah, I might want to say 2 of my roommates with babies. And this is what happens when Abby, my loving, beautiful... using the word procreate on my podcast. What was I saying? This is not your show this time. I'm going to sit here and drink my Fair State Saison because... Anyway, congrats to my old roommates for not interrupting my show with their children. Unfortunately, my wife's episode got like a lot of downloads.
Why is that unfortunate?
because that means you're going to want to be on this show even more. Anyway, enough of you. We're going to go watch Big Brother and eat blizzards. Then I'm going to go sleep in a dorm for almost a week. Anyway, I don't even know where I was at now. You've totally forgot. I've forgotten my train of thought is shot. I was saying congrats to my roommates for their new children. I was making fun of Chad's hairline. My 20-year reunion's coming up next week. So all these things are going on. So that's all I got now. For my interruptingly beautiful wife, Abby, thank you for listening and spending your time with me, because you've always got time for short time. It's my line.
Show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.